Coming up on Theater Talk.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Stephen is that he'll wait till the last minute, and for two reasons. First of all, he does procrastinate a bit, but secondly, he loves to sit in rehearsal and see what's happening. He wants to see the scene before, he wants to see the actors doing the part, he wants to know what's going on with the lights, all of this. And then he can write from character in the brilliant way that he does.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm the show's producer, Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Michael, there is a fantastic new revival of Follies on Broadway, and we're going to talk about it tonight.
And for the first time, I think, in the history of Follies, Susan, this one is actually making a lot of money, over $1 million a week. It's astounding. So I think the time has come, finally, for this great show. We are joined tonight by Ted Chapin of the Rodgers and Hammerstein organization, who wrote the Bible on the history of Follies, Everything Was Possible, The Birth of the Musical Follies. And Ted, you were a gopher in the original production.
Was indeed. I go forward everything.
That's right. And we have a special treat because we have two of the original cast members from the 1971 production of Follies. We are joined by Kurt Peterson, who was young Ben in the original production. He was also in West Side Story and Dear World with Angela Lansbury. And our friend Harvey Evans, who was the original Buddy in Follies. And Harvey, you have such a list of credits. The show will be over if I read them all, but West Side Story,
read them all.
Gypsy, and Hello, Dolly. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
All right, so guys, I wanted to ask you, I've always been curious about this. The first time you performed what is now considered a groundbreaking show in front of an audience that paid for their tickets in Boston, I believe, what was the reaction from this crowd to this show that they had never seen anything like this before?
The dress rehearsal was chaos. I mean, we were over costumed and the ghosts were in white makeup and everybody was a mess at that dress rehearsal. That's what I remember. And it was sort of depressing.
And your memories of that those early performances?
It's a little, the audience reaction is a little blurred, but I think at that point, because we were the younger ghosts, they had us painted like younger ghosts, meaning white-faced. And I think we had wigs on that were giving us major headaches at the same time.
Wild. Did you have a sense, though, that as you were trying to show out in Boston, that it was getting better, or that people were starting to get it, or did you feel an audience resisting it and just not liking it?
I think we had so much to worry about just performing it that I don't think we thought what the audience was getting. We knew, I mean, I had seen Company opening night, and it just dazzled me, and I thought anything that Prince and Sondheim are going to do, I want to be part of. So I don't think I judged the show as much as just getting our costumes right and everything, because I knew it was going to be terrific. Yeah. And when we finally put the new prologue in, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, the last performance in Boston, our whole morale changed. We became a hit suddenly. The prologue worked like magic, just magic.
What was there before?
There were two versions of the prologue, and they were all similar in style, but I think the genius of Michael Bennett was to see something that worked and worked very well and just decide, no, I can make this better.
Yes.
And he, all through Boston, there was a lot of other things to do, putting in I'm Still Here, changing Alexis's song. There's a lot of and little things, but Michael was working on the prologue all the way through Boston, and as Harvey said, the last performance it went in, and it just clicked. Everybody felt that it really clicked. It set up what the show was all about in a way that the others hadn't quite.
And for people who haven't seen Follies, that prologue is
the very opening. It's the spotlight on the showgirl. The opening chord in the beginning sets the scene.
And then you do now know there's Follies.
And it's based on a song that was cut, All Things Bright and Beautiful. I mean, it's the other thing about Michael Bennett and Steve Sondheim as a collaborative team. You know, Michael wanted to hear everything that had been cut because the show, as you know, had been written as The Girls Upstairs, and it's taken all kinds of different forms through the years. So Michael was hungry to hear everything Steve had written, and he took this song, which I think was a Sally song, that had been cut, and it's that weird kind of wonderful ethereal sound, and basically it was setting up both the ghost-filled theater in which the show takes place, but also the beginning of the party.
You talk a lot about Michael Bennett, and you know, only a few years later, Michael is going to emerge as the most powerful director on Broadway with a chorus line. Could you see in his relationship with Hal Prince or where he was in his career at this point that he was ready to go out on his own and command a show himself? Do you remember anything about?
Oh,
Michael
yes,
Bennett?
yes, right away.
Where was Hal in all this, Ted?
Well, what I think is interesting, to note. I mean,
because this tells us how shows were put together.
Exactly, and as Harvey said, the Michael Bennett and Hal Prince together in company was something that was so unified. I mean, it was very hard to tell where the musical staging left the choreography that left the staging that the director would have done. It was all of a unit and of a piece. And when Follies came along, I think Michael was savvy enough and ambitious enough to know that the way Follies was going to be set in this wonderful abstraction of a theater, that Hal was going to need a lot of that movement around.
Right.
So he actually convinced Hal to be co-director. And I don't know that that was comfortable for either one of them, but it certainly resulted in a production that really felt co-directed, because in the same time it was dramatically interesting and the movement just never stopped.
All right,
Whose
guys,
idea was that set that was in the first version, this very conceptual, stretched out abstraction, as you say?
Well, there's a wonderful first drawing of Boris Aronson's for the set, which I assume came after conversations with Steve and Hal and Jim Goldman. And what's fascinating is that even though there are things in it that are sort of very simple watercolor notions, the final set was a sort of realization of the abstract notion. I mean, one thing that I have to say, from my standpoint, and I'll go here, there's no production of Follies that I've seen since the original that understood the value of setting it in something that is abstract. Because you never were actually in a theater, you didn't see a back wall, you didn't see it. You saw these pieces of set that came and went magically, so that there were levels and things. I mean, somebody asked me the other day about The Right Girl, Buddy's song.
Right.
And Gene Nelson was up on a level, and he watched Too Many Mornings, then he started dancing up on a level. And then part of the choreography was to start dancing up there and then dancing down a spiral staircase and staying up on a and then finally getting to the center of the stage.
Now, tell us some of the backstage tales, guys, because I know this was not an easy show. Can you give us who was a real pain in the ass to work with of all these grand old ladies? Which one did you love? Which one did you avoid?
Well, there's a good story that Ethel Chate was our favorite.
We loved.
And she played
fantastic.
She was Broadway Baby.
Yeah, right.
And Dorothy Collins we loved too.
Oh, Dorothy Collins was. It was like Alexis and Dorothy were both very nice, but Alexis's door was closed. Dorothy's door was open all the time. So she was our mom. You know, if you had a problem, you went to Dorothy. You didn't go to Alexis. But Fifi was a little bit of a pain in the butt, especially because she couldn't remember her lyrics out of town. She had major problems with lyrics. I mean, they talk about Yvonne and Jean, but it was Fifi that.
So wait, it was A Paris that Fifi?
Yes,
and
A
she
Paris.
couldn't, and she. Oh.
But one time she came into the room and there was no chair for her. And she stood there like wanting someone to give her their chair, and Ethel Chate went, "Squattez-vous, Fifi." You're in your book.
It's in the book.
And,
Right.
Kurt, your memories of these great old ladies who must have had huge egos back there.
Well, I think one of the genius parts of casting the original, and the thing that they couldn't do now, is the fact that 1971 did reflect, and these people lived in the vaudeville in those times.
That's right.
Ethel Chate was in Whoopi with Eddie Cantor.
That's right.
And the movie stars, Yvonne was the fading movie star from that era.
Yvonne DiCarlo.
And the song references that era as well. So there's a lot of genius in that. My favorite Ethel story is how she sort of embellished Broadway Baby. She was staged in a very, very sort of tight presentation of it, but pretty soon she started to move a little bit more, and then at one point, she says, "At my tiny flat, there's my cat," and she kicks the cat off the stage.
I gotta laugh; it stays in.
And Dorothy, she was our mother, but she was just she was Mother Earth, and she was just so special as a cheerleader for the whole company.
And Alexis?
And she was a little more frightened because I don't think she had as much stage time as Dorothy and as much singing time as Dorothy. So she was a little frightened, and I understand that. So she was, sad, and she wanted to be good. She was big. She had the red dress on.
I want to talk about Steve. So these songs are classics now. Do you have memories of hearing the first time Steve Sondheim plays Broadway Baby for you, or I'm Still Here?
I remember the first time we heard Yvonne saying "I'm Still Here." I don't think we ever heard Steve sing it first, but that was absolutely mind-blowing. We were
Really?
sitting in the audience at the theater in Boston, and Yvonne kept postponing singing it for the company. Hal would say, "You got to sing it sooner or later. You got to, you know." So she said, "All right, I'll try," or something. And we were all just blown away. I mean, what can you say? Still hearing "I'm Still Here" is breathtaking, but that first time.
Steve did a playthrough for all the songs that were written, I think the first day of rehearsal, you know, and Ted, because we go back and forth with a lot of things. We got little archives. And our song wasn't there yet.
No, I have a script that said...
We came in, we're looking for our lines in our song, and
Well,
there
and
was
your
nothing
song
there.
wasn't, sorry.
No, he hadn't written it yet when we started rehearsals.
Oh, I see.
And this is, are you doing your song here?
Yes,
we are.
When
Yes,
the
we
camera.
are.
Oh, that's Loveland, right?
Yes.
And
You're
so,
gonna love Tomorrow, and Love Will See Us Through, yeah, with Michael's choreography.
Both songs that were not written.
and they were written when you were going to rehearsals.
Yeah,
That's the thing about Stephen, is that he'll wait till the last minute, and for two reasons. First of all, he does procrastinate a bit, but secondly, he loves to sit in rehearsal and see what's happening. He wants to see the scene before, he wants to see the actors doing the part, he wants to know what's going on with the lights, all of this. And then he can write from character in the brilliant way that he does. And so a lot of the numbers are late to the party. And you said, did we realize that all the numbers were classics? I don't think when Stephen sings and does a playthrough, you can tell right away. I don't know if you
No,
You can't tell because Steve's not the greatest singer or piano player in the world. Frankly.
No, but I think one of the things that was clear from the beginning, because he wrote what he refers to as pastiche songs and follies, because there's sort of the Kurt Weill song, there's the Irving Berlin Beautiful Girls, like Pretty Girls Like a Melody. So they were fun, and you could say, oh, that's kind of fun. And the stomping song, the Broadway Baby was kind of a stomping song, and then the French number was, oh, that's kind of like a. So that those numbers were all kind of accessible in a way that he wasn't known for in those days, which in some ways made the other songs, the Ben songs, the Road You Didn't Take, and songs like that,
Losing My
which
Mind,
are much more his voice, really fascinating. And remember, he wasn't the god that he is today.
Right.
I say that because he said that himself in his last show.
Yes.
And so there were fans. He had fans, but they just learned company the year before. So even a few of us knew about Anyone Can Whistle, but for the most part, and funny thing happened with the Forum, but he was never really noticed properly for the score.
Now, when you came to New York, though, the show lost something like $800,000. It was the most expensive flop of all time. Did you have a sense that this just wasn't catching on when you were in New York?
Yes, I guess we did because of the reviews opening night. I remember Hal reading Clive Barnes' review at the party, being really upset by the fact that it wasn't accepted. What's wonderful for us now is 41 years later, we're in a hit. Hey,
don't give up.
But I have to say, too, about Steve, you, and this is from doing Older Buddy lately, but you learn more from his lyrics than you do from the book writer. Yeah. You can find your character in his songs so easily. He's just that good of a writer.
Yeah. Now, the book has taken knocks over the years, and I know Bobby Goldman, James Goldman's widow, has fiddled around with it and all that. Did you think the book was good in the original production, or was it a problem?
Well, I have to comment on the book from being 63 years old. When I was 22, I was hired because I was half conscious. Those young people don't know the end.
Yeah.
So, I was just sort of watching and sort of a fly on the wall, and we'd run on stage and say a couple lines, run off. We didn't know, or I didn't know, speaking for myself, the genius that was going on and that kind of thing.
Jonathan Tunick made a wonderful comment to me at the Roundabout revival. He said, when I first did this show, I thought, look at these sweet, wonderful young people, and look at those unfortunate middle-aged people and those old people. And then he did the revival. He thought, look at those callous youth and these sweet. He intends at some point to say, look at these sweet, wonderful older people, what lives they've led.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Just one final thought. Do you remember the closing night performance?
Oh, yes.
They were what we call the Follies freaks. And they were people who, not just 5 times, 10, 12, 15, 20. They loved the show so much. They knew it so well, and they were so supportive, and they were there. It was just
we couldn't hear where our entrance was supposed to be because of the applause. It was
so
continuous applause
exciting
for everybody that came on stage, and we're going, where are we? Where are we?
Sounds like a hit to me.
Absolutely. 41 years later, you guys are in a hit. All right. I want to thank Ted Chapin from Rodgers & Hammerstein, office, who wrote the indispensable "Everything Was Possible."
Thank you, Michael.
Bravo. Musical Follies, and great to have the original young Ben with us, Kurt Peterson, and the original young Buddy Harvey Evans.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Now, Susan, you may think the hottest show in town is Hugh Jackman on Broadway, but I've got news for you. There is a show that is infinitely better that you cannot get a ticket to that is turning this town upside down. It's called Jackie Hoffman's A Hanukkah Carol. Is that how I pronounce it?
Hanukkah Carol. Christmas Carol, Hanukkah Carol.
Harold at the New World Stages. It stars our good friend and one of the funniest women in New York, Jackie Hoffman, who's single-handedly keeping the Addams Family going after more
Until
than
tomorrow,
a year on
right.
Broadway.
And what a sad year 2012 will be for you, Michael. What are you going to destroy next? Without us as the target. It's over.
I did my best to bring that show down, but you beat me at my own game and you ran it a year and a half.
We kept it up. We had the love of the people. You never run out of morons. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? And I'm so honored to follow Follies. They're still here.
Right across the street. Now,
For a day.
before we get to your wonderful Hanukkah Christmas Carol show, I do want to talk a little bit about the Addams Family.
Oh, God. It was a trap.
Was it, I
No,
don't
come on the
know.
show. We'll talk about your show.
I'm just curious.
It's New Year's. I'm going to
Bring
start
it.
drinking.
I'm just curious now, what is it like to be in a Broadway show that was as despised by the critics and the theater community as the Addams Family was?
I
mean,
thought
what's-
you made up with those people.
I didn't know, but I'm just curious, what is it like from your perspective when you guys are in it and you open this show and the critics just pile on and then the community piles on and denies you Tony Awards and all that stuff?
Well, I'm no stranger to being denied a Tony Award. But it was a strange couple of weeks, like after, because in previews we got a lovely response from the audiences, and then after those reviews and after you did your little Nazi number, the audiences were not sure. What do we want to laugh, but we can't, not allowed. So it was strange for a while, and then it settled down, and people forgot about it, really. So
I mean, I try to remind people periodically in my column.
and thank you for that.
Well, you have to thank Spider-Man for coming along. And
Spider-Man
Yes.
Spider-Man came along
and
stole your-
out-disastering us.
That's right. And do you, I know Nathan Lane pretty well, and he strikes me as having kind of a gallows sense of humor about everything. Do you guys just
That's
kind of...
why we got along so well.
and you
The
just,
only person who's darker than I am, Nathan, God love him.
That's right. And you just soldier on through, and it's a job, and you've got people to entertain, and the critics are over.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like working in a morgue. I mean, we had a good time. We made each other laugh. We still do. We make the audiences laugh. I mean, Brantley's not in the house every night saying, "I still hate it." It's people who are like, this is funny.
That's your target audience, baby. All right, you're Jackie Hoffman's A Hanukkah Carol at the New
Close
World.
enough, yes.
At the New World Stages. You're playing many different parts in this.
I
You're playing
am.
Scrooge.
It's a departure for me. It's my first foray away from the cabaret format, and it's a one-woman play, and I play all of the characters. I make a natural Scrooge for obvious reasons, and I even play Patrick Stewart as my own narrator. It's inspired by Patrick
This was
Stewart's
inspired by,
one-man
that's right, his
Christmas Carol.
famous Christmas Carol that he won several awards for back in the day. How do you do the ghost of things yet to come in a hood?
Well, yes, that's visualized, and Patrick says, a faceless figure cloaked and draped. And then I express my relief, saying, you're the ghost of Hanukkah's yet to be, right? You don't talk? Good, one less character voice. So that's how we take care of that one.
And what
it gives me time to react.
What got you thinking about doing doing this kind of a show. Did you really like that Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol years ago?
I just thought it was a great idea, and my director and frequent collaborator, Michael Shirali, and I wanted to, let's do something different. And I just said, didn't Patrick Stewart do a one-man Christmas Carol? Why don't we? Because we've always wanted to, you know, there's so many of the, my life, then when I was 11, I knew I could sing and I knew I was gay. Who cares? So we've seen enough of these autobiographical, boring pieces of dreck, and we've never really touched on my life and gotten that personal. And so we wanted to do what was the most entertaining and funny, spectacular and unusual way we could do it, and ghosts of Hanukkah past, present, and future. So we tackle all this. It's kind of like a jazz singer meets Christmas Carol, you know, the neurotic Jewish conflict. Jolie, become a cantor. I can't, I love showbiz. Mwah! You know, we get that in. And, you know, the career, and you've done 3 big Broadway musicals, accumulating 12 total minutes of stage time. And then you get to the future, and in the future, we're going to do a reality show starring you. It's an ugly Betty meets ugly you, ugly Jew. And then it just gets incredibly grotesque and incredibly funny. There's 2 chorus boys for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS who are going through my stuff. and it will be worth a lot more now since she's, you know.
Have you always had this ability to make fun of yourself? I mean, you make yourself the butt of a lot of the jokes in these shows.
Yes, I do. Well, an intensely organic self-loathing helps a lot. So it just comes naturally. Yeah, doing what comes naturally.
You are a dark person. I mean, I've seen you
Yeah,
running
you'd
around
think
the
I've
neighborhood.
had a lot more hardship than I have, but somehow I don't know whether it's an innate Jewish suffering. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's missing Hugh Jackman by a hair.
We should say, for people who didn't see the backstage show here, Jackie came in to the studio today, and she just missed our other guest, Hugh Jackman. And you can't get in to see his show at all, right?
Well, I will have plenty of time come January 1st.
Has Hugh been by to see the Addams Family?
Oh, shit! I don't believe so, although bevies of celebrities have come to our show.
Now, I noticed you had a very funny one-woman show not too long ago. I think it was called Jackie 5-0.
Yes, it was.
And you had some
Did you see that one?
Yes, I loved that one. It was great. You had some hilarious lines about the Addams Family. And there was one line, the only show that even gay men, what was that?
I'm in the only Broadway musical that doesn't appeal to gay people.
When you deliver these zingers, does the producers and the investors of the Addams Family, did they say, Jackie, you're in the show, we're paying your salary,
well,
and you're making fun of it publicly?
I more mocked people like yourself who were taking those barbs at us.
Oh, good.
And I don't think they think I have enough monetary influence on their product. I mean, my audience is drastically different than the Addams Family audience. As you can tell by the lack of response from the Addams Family audience to anything that I say.
Jackie 5-0 is going to L.A. when you're done with the Addams
Yes,
Family.
thank you, Susan. It is going to L.A. for 2 weekends at the Gay Lesbian Center in L.A., which has like 40 names.
Yes, yes.
The Lily Tomlin, Harold Gould, Lillian Gish, Mario Cantone Theater in Hollywood. Hollywood.
So you're going...
Weekend of January 13th and then the following weekend.
So, and is this kind of, are you testing the waters out in Hollywood? I mean, a possible Jackie Hoffman pilot? Any interest from the studios?
Well, I don't think I'll ever be allowed on camera, but at least let me take, because you know, theater in L.A., boy, that's magic.
They're fools not to build a show around you.
They are fools not to build a show. I mean, you've built a show around yourself.
Thank you. I think
should take the...
if it were 1965, I'd be working like crazy.
Well, now we would. Oh,
I was just going to say, but
minute.
you would be a laugh-in person. You'd be on something like a Carol Burnett show. I mean, Variety would be what you would have done so well.
The Imogene Coca, Ruth Buzzy, yeah.
And now they all get grotesque facelifts, and everybody looks alike, and there's no faces anymore.
Yes,
That's
And
right.
they have no. That's what.
How frightening! All right, let's toast the new year, darling.
Well, let's toast Jackie's show.
Let's toast Jackie's show.
Jackie Hoffman's A Hanukkah Carol. Am I?
Yes, I'll take it.
I'm Presbyterian, so I want to get my Hanukkah Carol.
January 2nd, correct?
January 2nd.
January 2nd.
At New World Stages.
World
Stages. It's the same room as the bubble show, so the seats are a little sticky.
And also, I also want to salute you for soldiering on in the Addams Family for a year and a half.
Thank
To
you.
the Addams Family.
Here's to an Addams-free 2012. Your dream has come true.
Jackie Hoffman, it's always a pleasure. We'll see your show. It's going to be great.
L'chaim.
See you in
Thank
LA.
You.
Wait, this isn't champagne. This is ginger ale.
Yes, I told you.
There's a roofie in here. What kind of show are you running?
We invite a guest and we don't give her champagne.
I hope the cameras are running.
we don't
I
give
hope
her
my
champagne.
cameras are
My
running.
clothes off wherever I am. Where's Hugh?
Good night, everybody. we bring a guest in and you give her ginger ale and not real champagne? What is this? When Hugh was here, we had real champagne for him.
No, we didn't.
Thank you, Jackie Hoffman. You can sign up for viewer updates at theatertalk.org.
Or you can Twitter us. Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.